So our next speaker is actually Bud Magaldi. Bud was very much involved with the SN95. He'll talk about the design work. He did the exterior work. We'll have Emmeline King come on afterwards, and she did the interior work of the SN95. So you'll get a pretty good introduction to the whole process. Of course, we had Art here yesterday afternoon talking about the SN95 and a lot of other very interesting topics too. So hopefully you enjoy these so far, and at this point I'll turn it over to Bud.
Thank you, Steve, for the kind introduction. First, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of the enthusiasts here and those who worked hard to make the Mustang Owners Museum a reality. I think it's a remarkable accomplishment of myself. I would also like to thank the Mustang Owners Museum for inviting me here to speak, along with Emmeline. And to speak on behalf of the 1994 Mustang design team on the styling development, strictly the styling development of the 94 and the SN95. And now I'd like to present from a designer's view a presentation of how we got to the 94 Mustang. Yeah. First, a little history, if you don't mind. It was a total redesign after the 14-year run of the 1979 design and package. Available in a coupe and a convertible with a factory installed top. Previous to the one that was previous was a convertible top done by a vendor, AMC, and these had a factory top. They ranged in price from $14,000 to $24,000, with 55,000 Mustangs ordered before production began. On the first day that the car was available, dealers took 22,000 orders. The first 12 months, we sold 247,000 cars. One of the most exciting things to happen was when Motor Trend named a Car of the Year for us on the program, and it was equal, for me, it was equal to like winning an Oscar. Also a great distinction was the given honor of pacing the Indy 500. Now, let's get started with this, how we got to the 94 Mustang design, the SN95. But I'd like to give you a little history on me first. After graduating from Art Center, get the photo of the 66, yeah. I was hired by Ford, where I spent 32 and a half years designing anything and everything that they made that had wheels. My first assignment as a trainee at Ford Design Center in Dearborn was in the early summer of 1966. I was asked to do a full-size side view tape drawing of the car you see up there, the 66 Mustang. I think it was to be used for comparison to another full-size drawing of a 67 Mustang, and I also believe it was for marketing purpose only, because the car was already done, and why would they need a tape drawing of this? But in the next photo, the 68 GT350, 68, yeah, that's 67 up there. But while I was still on the training program, I was sent to work on the 68 Shelby GT350 Mustang with a fellow named Chuck McCose and Pete Stacy, where I was given the job of sketching and redesigning the convertible roll bar along with the Cobra emblem. Now, the Cobra emblem was two-dimensional at that point in time, and now I didn't realize that at the time they didn't want to do that thing, so they gave it to me because I was a newbie and didn't have much experience. So they said, why don't you make that three-dimensional? So I did, unbeknownst to me that it would be still around today, you know, as a three-dimensional Cobra. But anyway, while still on the training program, I was sent. Then following that was the Mark I Candy Apple Red Teaser. This is something I worked on as well for the 69 Mark I production car, which involves sketching front ends and wheel design. Also adding the rectangular headlights. And after that, Mark II, I moved onto the mid-engine two-seater called the Mark II. It was put together in secret in the basement of the Ford Design Center after normal work hours. The design team there included lead designer Jerry Morrison, studio engineer Bob Hubbard, and myself, and a couple of clay modelers. This vehicle was done to take advantage of the win of the Ford GT40s at Le Mans, with the thinking being that it might be a feasibility study built on a shortened Mustang Mach 1 side view chassis to test out the prospects of turning this into a production car. Only a concept, the Di Tommaso Pantera became the production car, which was ultimately marketed through Lincoln Mercury dealers. The next thing I did, the next project, if you can believe this one, this is really funny because this is what happens when you first become a designer. You're on the training program. If somebody doesn't want to do something, they give it to you to do. And that's what happened to me here. The next project was, if you can believe this, was a cam-back station wagon based on a '69 Mustang with aerodynamics as the driver for the design to help keep dirt from collecting on the rear of the car. Now, let me share a few statistics with you on the SN95, which was the code name for the '94 Mustang. It was a total redesign after a 14-year run in 1979, design and package. The platform is based on a much modified Fox chassis platform. The numeral 4 denotes the overhaul that was accomplished for the '94 model year, with 1,330 parts of the car's 1,850 parts, platform parts, being new. So basically, we started with the Fox platform that had 1,850 parts. We changed 1,330 of them. Many of them helped to add more torsional stiffness and stability to the car. It was available in a coupe and a convertible with a factory-installed top versus the previous generation being built taking a hard top, cutting the top off at an aftermarket shop and making it into convertible. The SN95 hardtop was done to save cost by using the same sheet metal as the convertible and possibly producing a removable top, which only a few were built. The question often asked is, why not a 3-door hatchback? According to the program manager, Will Boddy, and I quote, "It is very difficult to build a hatchback with as much stiffness and stability and less weight as it is to build a coupe and a convertible with those attributes." Now, I know some folks were here yesterday for Art Hyde, and they saw Art, and he described some of the stuff that happened. I think all of my numbers are right on the parts. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they were. And Art shaking his head yes, so I guess it was right. The cars ranged in price from $14,000 to $24,000, as I said before, with 55,000 Mustangs ordered before production. And on the first day, the dealers took 22,000 orders. And that's the first 2 years of the production, 256,873 cars were sold. But one of the most exciting things to happen was when Motor Trend named the Car of the Year for us. On the program, it was equal to winning an Oscar, like I mentioned earlier. With all of the great Mustangs that have been done, it is ironic that it was only the second time a Mustang was named Car of the Year, along with the 1974 Ford Mustang II. I'm the third one from the off. If you look at the photo, I'm the third one in from the left, yeah.
Is Art up there?
Art, are you up in that photo? You should have been. You were probably out somewhere on vacation or something like that. Yeah, he's already on another program by then. He was already on another program. Also, a great distinction was being given the honor of pacing the Indy 500. A note of interest is the location of the decals that are put on the pace cars. They are dictated by tradition and the Indianapolis 500 Committee. The decals on the production cars were shipped in the trunk of the car and not installed on the pace car editions unless requested by the customer. The roll bar is also unique to the actual pace car, as it houses all the caution lights that are needed, therefore is a bit deeper and wider than the one on the production Cobra convertible. With that being said, now I'd like to give a brief talk on how the SN95 Mustang came to be and a bit of the design history. As a few of you might know, that it was basically done off-site, away from the Ford Design Center, with a small group of product planners, finance folks, design modelers, studio and design engineers, along with other disciplines, and of course industrial designers, sometimes referred to as stylists. Now this is the building that we actually worked in. That doesn't look anything like a design center to me. And the facility, it was located in Allen Park, Michigan, was formerly a Montgomery Ward warehouse. I don't know if everybody knows who Montgomery Ward was. By the way, it's where my studio and office was, and ironically, almost in the same spot where my new bride, Mary Ellen, and I bought our first piece of furniture back in the mid-'60s, moving from Boston to Detroit, but that's another story for another time. Back to the SN95 program. As I had mentioned, it takes a team to develop the package, and the engineering and the design, along with planning and finance. On this program, that came to about 240 people, give or take. I know Art said his programs were mostly 400 people, but because we were off-site and all on the same in the same campus, first of all, we didn't have the budget for that many people, and we were able to get everybody together that we needed, so we didn't need duplicates of each discipline. But the unique part is they were all put together in the same location and guided, and the discipline guided by one of the folks in this picture. But the program actually started with these folks here, actually started with about 11 people. It's called the Skunk Works Group, spearheaded by engineer John Coletti, a marketing guy, Ron Macholi, and a designer, John Aiken, who formed a Skunk Works Group back at the Design Center in late 1989. When there was some talk of it, if you can imagine this, doing away with the Mustang and focusing on the probe. At least that's the story I got, which was unbelievable, you know. I was not a member of that group. But was asked to manage the team that would ultimately design the car. It was a dream come true for me. The first thing we did was ask to see the results of market research info on the first clay model done by the Skunk Works Group. And after reviewing it, decided that the feedback we got from the limited group of people was that it resembled a probe and not viewed as a Mustang. Now that would be the one up on the top there, and the clay model. What we did was we took it back to the studio and massaged a few surfaces, and what you see in the fiberglass version was the massaged version of the car on the top, where we put some scoops on and stuff like that. My boss decided it might be better to have a competition amongst two studios, mine and another of my boss's studio, Dave Rees, John Dowdy's studio. Using the massage first model as the base design, both teams were challenged with creating two new designs using Mustang cues from the very first Mustang. Now that very first Mustang is sitting right over there, by the way, and we know who that belongs to. And they're sitting here in the audience. Would you guys stand up, please? I think it's important. I think that's very important. It's Tom and Gail. And Gail bought that car in just about a year ago yesterday. I mean, a year ago, 58 years ago. 58 years ago yesterday, yeah. But anyway, that was the car that we used as our benchmark for getting the new SN95 together, only in a more modern way. But anyway, both teams were challenged with creating two new designs using Mustang cues from the very first Mustang and blending them into a lean, aerodynamic body design, with the other team working toward an edgier design, and our team working on a modified version of the Massage first model. So the edgier one is the one up at the top. No, that's our model up there. That's Model 2. But after the models were done, in order to identify them on paper, we decided to give them names. We called the first one a Massage model. That's the one up there now. That was we called that Bruce Jenner. After the gold, no, I know, but it was Bruce Jenner then, yeah. After the gold medal winning classic athlete, that's why we did. We didn't want it to be too wild, but we wanted it definitely to be a little healthier than that. But and then the second model from my studio, was this one here, a modified version of the Bruce Jenner model, which was the classic athlete sent to the gym to bulk up. So what do you think we call that one? We call that Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's right. Well, the third model, designed by the Dowdy design team, was called Rambo, for its dramatic, gutsy appearance, sort of a Batman mobile type of a car, very edgy and very much like a stealth fighter. But after a few market research seminars with the Mustang owners and Ford management, it was clear to us that they liked the retro look of the 1965-1967 model of the Arnold Schwarzenegger model, as it was the right combination of proportion and contemporary styling, not too European like the Bruce Jenner model, and not as lethal as the Rambo version, and it just exhibited good old American horse sense. With this in our pocket, the next step was to develop an interior. This is where Emmeline comes in. For that, we chose to go a bit retro with a contemporary flair, meaning a dual IP with a flowing console coming down between the two bucket seats. And the lead on the IP was Emily King, seen in this photo. You barely see anything in that photo. Yeah. Along with some interior, Emily King. Along with some of the interior design team, including the lead on the rest of the interior, Eric Kezian. After we got the blessing to start preparing the Arnold for feasibility, we found out that GM was preparing for a major media blitz with the introduction of a new Camaro and Firebird. Although there was no budget or design team in place to do a concept, Chief Engineer John Coletti and Joe Laura, a 1994 Mustang contributor, along with Greg Assiri, design modeling manager, stepped in and volunteered to become product managers for their disciplines and what was to become the Mark III, a running, drivable, high-performance two-seater based on some of the SN95 features. We at design had to convince our bosses that it would not take much to do this concept. Since we had already done some sketches and had 12 modelers available to work on it, with the thought that it would take only 12 weeks from start to finish for the clay and fiberglass to get done. But while we did this, Joe Laura went out and found vendors and engineering groups to help with the project, some who did it for free, but it did not take a design team of 12 modelers and a couple of designers and studio engineers 12 weeks to do the job. It took a design team of about 40 people in about 6 months to get it done. but it was worth all the effort as it took a lot of thunder away from the 1993 Camaro Firebird introduction, while offering up some of the Mustang features for the 94. Even after all this, the most exciting thing was for me to go to the Rouge plant and watch the first cars come off the assembly line under the watchful eye of plant manager Lou Calloway and program director Will Boddy. That was a great day. At this point, I'd like to entertain any questions pertaining to design and thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak to such an attentive group of Mustang enthusiasts. They're our heroes, by the way. You are our heroes. As if you have not guessed by now, I am also an enthusiast and currently drive a 1995 Cobra Clone convertible, which again is another Mustang story for another time. Thank you. Okay, let's start here in the first row.
Jordan Hawk, Suffolk, Virginia. I've always been a huge fan of the Mach 2, the one you guys did underground.
Oh, that one.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of design. I've had a lot of design ideas based on that particular model. I was always upset that nobody even came out with like even a
Mhm.
like a kit car or something
Yeah.
of that nature. That way you can modify it. But I tell you what was that like having that downstairs in the basement? With a small team.
Very secretive.
Very secretive. And were you guys very collaborative on that effort, or was there a lot of infighting?
Oh no, there was quite a few people actually involved in it because we used the Fox platform right from that car right there.
Wow.
Actually used part of the body panels for it too. The cockpit and everything like that was basically that car. The big difference was it was a mid-engine car, but our thought was to just make it as much like a Mustang as we could on that platform. Now the Mustang, short rear end, long front end, that type of thing, was imperative that we kept that kind of proportion because that was the Ferrari look that Henry Ford was after in the first place, and we wanted, I basically like simple design. I don't like a lot of extra stuff like that Rambo model, that's not me. But we still had a good time doing it, and we had a lot of fun doing it, even though nobody knew about it until much later in life. Even our bosses didn't know we were doing that car. They knew something was going on, but they didn't know what.
So my kudos to the SM95 Mustang to you and your team.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a huge fan, believe it or not. I was a Fox body fan, and I think I own every year of that car.
Oh.
I'm at 105 vehicles right now, but
Oh.
I've actually had most of all those vehicles. And I tell you what, until I got into my first SM95, which believe it or not was a 1998 triple black convertible Cobra.
Oh, nice.
That car was fascinating. I was like, what have I been doing all this time? So once I got that, then I've had SM95s ever since. So
Yeah.
I actually love the car.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Keeps my retirement going,
The taillights of the 94, 95.
Oh, yeah. This is a good story.
So in 93, being a Ford and Mustang fan my entire life, I joined a letter writing campaign to Ford to say, why aren't the taillights going up and down? Why do they have to go side to side? But I have to say, now that I'm the owner of a 94 Mustang with the horizontals, I wouldn't trade them for anything. So
Yeah.
could you talk about the
Sure, yeah. What happened there was, if you really look at the car, there's a character line that runs all the way around the car. That flat, all the way around. Well, in order to make the car look a little wider, we felt it might be better to stretch the taillights out so the light really gets to the edge of the car and not just inside. So that's where that came from. But we had a lot of feedback from Mustang owners previous that said, where's the 3-bar taillights? You're doing this based on that first Mustang. We want 3-bar taillights vertically. So almost immediately, I think just about the time the car came out, we were working on vertical taillights. Yeah. because it takes, because this was basically an all-new car, it takes 4 years to develop. 4 to 5 years sometimes, but 4 years in this particular car. On a refresh, it's usually 2 years, so you can get by with just doing taillights and stuff like that quickly. So that's what happened there. But my boss was adamant about the horizontal taillights. He said, no, you got this thing going this way, all the character lines are running this way. We're going to keep horizontal.
Thank God you did, because like you said, from a design perspective, they're perfect.
Well, we want to be different anyway at that point. Yes.
Hi, Janet Wojcik. I live here in Charlotte, and actually I just met Tom, and Tom and I have the exact same car, which
Oh,
is
nice.
really kind of funny.
Yeah.
Same 94, except mine's, mine's been around a little bit more. But anyway, just what's your educational background, and how did you end up working for Ford?
Well, it's an interesting story there. It's quick. I'll try to do it as quick as possible. I originally grew up in Boston, and not a car culture place at all. But when I was in junior high school, or middle school now, a GM scientist came to the school and showed us latest technologies. And basically, at the end of his presentation, he said, by the way, for young men ages between the age of 12 and 21, if you would like, you can design and build a 12-scale model car, not the one you buy at the store, but you have to design it, and you make it out of wood, plaster, fiberglass. You couldn't send a clay model in because wouldn't be stable enough to survive the trip. And then send it to Detroit, and you could win a scholarship. It was called the Fisher Body Craftsman's Guild. Some people here may have heard of it. And that got me into designing cars, which I always liked to do. I always liked to draw, so it was kind of a natural fit. And I wrote to GM and asked, where would I go to become a car designer? And they said, they gave me 2 schools, one in Detroit and one in California. Yeah, one in New York and one in California. They gave me Pratt Institute and Art Center College of Design, which produced about 99% of all car designers throughout the world, now even. And so I went there, and I was also I was going to school 2 semesters a year, and the third semester I would take off and work so I could get some money. But I did win scholarships from GM. But while I was at Art Center, learning how to become a car designer, GM, Chrysler, and Ford, they did come to the school, and we would do programs based on what they wanted us to do, like a new Corvette or a new T-Bird or something like that. But after meeting with those people, it became pretty clear to me that GM was all about politics. Chrysler they didn't have a clue. And Ford was a family-owned company, and the people that were working for Ford, they were all friends with each other. I mean, it was like they were family. And I had worked for a company during the summertime that was a family-owned company, and they treated me like family. So I felt it was the same thing with Ford, and that's why Ford came and interviewed me. They were the first company to come. I took the job right away. I didn't even want to go to GM or Chrysler. So I took that job right away, and that's how my wife and I moved we got married in Boston, but then 2 weeks later we were living in Detroit. And spent 32 and a half years at Ford, designing everything, and I mean everything. They owned Ford Philco. I was designing refrigerators and stoves and record players, portable record players, record players. Sounds like, really old-fashioned stuff, And then I worked in designing tractors when they had the tractor division. I worked in Henry Ford's office up on the 36th floor of the Rents Inn, doing design for his office. Worked on the airplane for him and his wife that they sent to Europe when they went back and forth to Italy. So, and just about every car, I think I had something to do with just about every car in the company. at one time or another. Mostly when I was on the training program, which was a 2.5 year, 3 months in each studio. So you got to every studio, like I said, but then I got to do things like that Cobra that were, nobody thought anything would ever come of that. You know, now here it is, an iconic emblem, basically. Same with the horse, the Mustang horse. I didn't do that, but that's the kind of thing. The guy that did it, Charles Karstach, the modeler, we pretty much let him do it because he knew about horses and he knew how to sculpt. So he did it, and company bought it, and it's still the same horse. It changes a little bit every year, but not by much. Anyway, anybody else? Yes, sir.
The original 94 and 95 Mustang, the scoops on the side were open.
Yes.
Later, mid-year 96 or so, one side closed, the other didn't, and by 97 they were both closed. Was there a reason for them being open?
Well, I think like any good designer wants form to follow function. You know, that's kind of a main thing that you think about when you do design anything. It has to, if you're gonna do a form, it should have a function, and if it has a function, it's supposed to be a scoop, it should be a scoop. It shouldn't be just look like one. So that was the thought behind that, is to make it, even though it didn't do much, it just cooled the tire treads. I mean, I don't think it really cooled the brakes like we thought it was going to. After running it through the wind tunnel, it didn't work. It didn't do anything for the brakes. The air just went through and hit the tire, and that was it. So of course, anytime you're trying to save some money, what do? You know, you just close it up. It's easy. And that's what happened to that. The hood scoops, on the other hand, they were always functional, every one of them. Yes, sir.
Did your team work the whole SM95 platform all the way to the new edge? All the way through 04?
Yes, yeah, the same team.
So here's my question. You ready for this? Did you ever expect the export taillights to gain so much traction and be such a sought after item for that home?
Did we ever expect it?
Yeah.
Well, we thought it might have a good chance because the other car ran for 14 years prior to it, you know, the third generation, which was a great car, by the way. I think it drove as well as anything, but the new one we had changed dramatically, and both on the underpinnings and, except for the 5 liter. The 5 liter was still in the new car. I mean the 94. It went to the 4.6 later on, but we felt that the 5 liter was necessary to put that in that car. By the way, only because that's what was in all the Mustangs.
I was actually talking about the actual tail lights.
Oh, the tail
The
lights.
ambers,
Oh,
with the amber thing, the export lights that went to Australia.
oh, I
It
don't.
was on the 99 Cobra.
That's a government issued thing, and you just have to do that if that's what they want, you know.
It's amazing because those things can go $1,500 a set. Right?
Is that right? Oh, yeah. Oh well. Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that one at all. I don't remember doing that part. We didn't do any of that. That was done probably in Australia. You know, like aftermarket. The car went there with the taillights that we gave them, and they changed them. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for. Oh, sorry, Art.
So, can you tell the story about the station wagon Mustang?
Oh, yeah. Well, the story is easy. I mean, I was on the training program, like I said, and what happens on the training program is the seasoned veterans, they don't want to be bothered with stuff that they don't like, all right? And I don't know about any of you Mustang folks, but at that point in time, back in the late 60s, nobody wanted Mustang to be a station wagon. It just didn't. I mean, look at how long it took to become a Mach-E, Mach. Right now, it's a SUV, right? It's the closest it's ever got to being a station wagon right there, and how many years later. You know? But in 1968, nobody wanted it. So all of my, I was always doing little things as a trainee, like the Cobra, like the roll bar for the 350 GT, the wheel covers, front grille stuff, emblems for the Torino, things like that. And grills and taillights, that type of thing is what trainees did. And when they said, the boss came in and asked, what about doing a station wagon? Who wants to do the station wagon? All the veterans looked at each other and said, oh, he does. Yeah. And I said, okay. I said, I guess I'm doing a station wagon. So, and it was a camback. I think Vega was doing one at the time, or going to do one or something like that. So we thought we must have thought we needed one. So we took a '69 Mustang, and the only changes I made on the front were rectangular headlights like that Mark had, and then of course the camback on the rear deck of the station wagon. But that's how it came about, and for me it was great. I loved it because I got to design the whole car, you know, for the first time in my life. Hi, Ron.
As a quick question, was there ever any serious consideration to actually to build, produce the Mark II or Mark III?
No, they were always meant to be teasers, is what they are. You know, send them to the car shows. People get excited about them. Although I did do that one time. This is not a Mustang story, but when I was also in the Explorer studio, and we didn't have any money to do a concept car for the one particular year, 1996, that I was in there. So 95, I think it was, and 95. So we came up with this. What we did was we said, we can do a concept car that won't cost us a lot of money. Just let us take an Explorer, cut the back end off, and make a pickup truck out of it, where we can take the backlight and put it in there. After it's a pickup truck, let that go down into the tailgate, fold the tailgate forward into the seats, and we can get a 4x8 sheet of plywood on the back if we open the tailgate. And they said, and then we can make it off-road. So we did that with the intent it would never become a production vehicle. And it became the Sport Track, you know? Only because people like us, we write to the companies and say, hey, I want to buy one of those things. You know, where do I go? Where do I sign up for it, you know? And of course, the company says, well, it's not going to be produced. Well, they got enough letters and people and this happens a lot. This is not unusual. And with Mustang, it was the same way. When they said it was going to be like a probe, you know, you wouldn't believe the letters I used to get, and I'm way down the chain, you know. And it was like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. We don't want a front wheel Mustang drive. We don't want a front wheel drive in a Mustang with a V6 or a V4 or whatever it was that they were going to put in it. And it was an easy decision for the company to make, just like they did with that Sport Track. They got enough people asking for one and wanting one, and that's how it came about. It wasn't exactly the car. The Sport Track that we did was called the Adrenaline, and it was pretty radical for its time. It had huge wheels and tires and skid plates and all kinds of stuff that made it off-road. It didn't end up like that in the marketplace, but it was close. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for being here for us. And Emmeline King is coming up pretty soon. And Art Hyde was here yesterday. I hope everybody got to hear it, listen to him. And I hope you enjoy Emmeline's presentation today.